Your eyes pop open, the room is still dark. You reach for your phone and the screen reads 6:29 a.m., 1 minute before your alarm was set to go off. It feels like magic or maybe a tiny psychic power, but it happens to millions of people every single morning. So how does your unconscious body know what time it is in a pitch-black room? On the surface, this looks like a simple coincidence, a lucky guess your brain makes because you're anxious about oversleeping. But that explanation falls apart when you look closer. This isn't your brain panicking at the last second. The process starts hours before you even regain consciousness. While you're still deep in sleep, your body has already checked the clock, realized morning is near, and started a complex chemical countdown to assemble the awake version of you. Long before the alarm screams, your temperature ticks upward, sleep hormones drain away, and stress hormones begin to surge. The real question isn't why you wake up right before the alarm. It's how your body knows morning is coming at all when you're unconscious and your eyes are closed in a dark room. The mastermind behind this morning heist is a tiny cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, buried deep in your brain. Think of it as the conductor of a vast invisible orchestra. This conductor doesn't need to see the sun to know what time it is because it has memorized your daily rhythm through something called entrainment. Over days and weeks of you waking at the same time, the SCN learns the pattern so precisely that it begins sending out chemical baton signals hours before your scheduled curtain call. It tells the pineal gland to stop releasing melatonin, the hormone that knits you into sleep, so the fog starts to thin. It nudges your core body temperature to rise about 2 degrees, which is the thermal equivalent of an engine warming up on a cold morning. And then, just before the alarm, it signals your adrenal glands to release a surge of cortisol, the hormone of alertness and action. Your brain isn't reacting to morning. It's actively predicting morning, transforming your biochemistry based on a stored memory of what time you'll be needed. Here's where it gets personal and a little bit spooky. Researchers studied what happens when people expect to wake up at a certain time versus when they don't. In classic sleep lab experiments, volunteers were told they'd be woken at 6 a.m. on some nights and 9 a.m. on others. Their blood was drawn continuously throughout the night. The results were stunning. On the nights they expected a 6 a.m. wake-up, their bodies began a measurable surge of the hormone ACT, the precursor to cortisol, around 4:30 a.m., as if flipping an internal switch. But on nights when they expected to sleep in, that surge didn't happen. The expectation alone, the simple conscious anticipation planted the night before, was enough to reprogram the internal clockwork. This isn't mind reading, it's a collaborative pact between your conscious intent and your unconscious biology. You tell your brain tonight what time the battle begins tomorrow, and your brain, a loyal general, starts waking the troops before the bugle even sounds. But let's take a weirder turn, because the timing system can also become a bit of a monster. The cortisol awakening response, that massive 50 to 75% spike in cortisol within the first 30 minutes of waking, is a beautifully tuned system in healthy people. It primes your immune system, sharpens your memory access, and basically boots up your brain's operating system for the day. However, when you're chronically stressed, that same system becomes over-alert. Your brain, sensing a persistent threat, recalibrates the internal clock to wake you not a polite 1 minute early, but at 3 a.m., hours before the alarm. This happens because the HPA axis that manages your morning cortisol is also your central stress response system. The wires get crossed. Your brain starts treating a normal Tuesday like an invading army is at the gates, waking you in the deep night to an empty house and a silent threat. The internal clock isn't just a timekeeper. It's a mood ring for your life, changing its rhythm based on whether you feel safe or hunted in the world. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the hidden architecture of your body, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next layer of the invisible world. But here's what's really going on, and it flips the entire story. We've been picturing this as a gentle, helpful nudge, a built-in backup alarm clock. The twist is that your body isn't trying to be helpful. It's trying to be efficient. Waking up is metabolically, neurologically, and hormonally violent. If you're ripped from deep sleep by a sudden siren, your brain and heart experience a jarring shock, a biological car crash. Your body knows this, so the pre-wake sequence isn't a polite courtesy. It's a carefully orchestrated pre-flight checklist designed to bring you online gradually and avoid the damage of a cold start. The rise in cortisol, the drop in melatonin, the shifting temperature are all survival mechanisms to transition you from a vulnerable unconscious state to a ready, alert one without breaking the machine. That moment your eyes open a minute early isn't a miracle. It's the visible tip of an enormous, unseen, and deeply protective biological ritual. Zoom out from the bedroom and you start to see something wild, a form of time travel. Every cell in your body has its own tiny molecular clock, ticking away in roughly 24-hour cycles, like a metronome of protein production and decay. Your liver, your muscles, your fat cells, they all have their own clocks. The SCN is just the master conductor, making sure they all play in time with the outside world. When you wake before the alarm, you're witnessing a perfect synchrony between the rotation of a planet, the light of a distant star, and that wet 3-pound biological network in your skull running on electricity and ancestral memory. Ancient life evolved circadian rhythms to anticipate the sun's damaging UV rays and repair DNA before the light even arrived. So your pre-alarm wake-up is the modern echo of 3 billion years of life learning to predict the future in order to survive it. You're not just a person who woke up early, you're a living prophecy machine, a biological oracle that knows the sun is coming because your ancestors who failed to predict it got erased from the gene pool long ago. Now here's a rapid-fire constellation of related truths. First, your sense of smell is sharpest right after you wake up, that same cortisol priming effect at work. Second, pre-industrial sleep records show people often slept in 2 distinct chunks, with an hour of wakefulness in the middle of the night. Our modern compressed sleep might be the historical oddball. Third, astronauts on the ISS see 16 sunrises and sunsets every day, which completely shatters their internal clocks unless they stick to strict artificial light schedules. And fourth, in total sensory deprivation with zero light or time cues, the human body defaults to a roughly 24-hour and 11-minute day. So the clock is truly internal, just slightly imperfect. Here's the frame that ties it all together. That moment of waking before the alarm is physical proof you aren't a single self, you're a parliament of systems negotiating your existence. Your conscious mind went to sleep with a simple wish, wake at 6:30. Your unconscious systems turn that into a multi-hour chemical symphony, a conductor, a fading darkness hormone, a warming engine, a stress spike, and a memory of solar time. You aren't a thing that wakes up. Waking up happens to you, orchestrated by a part that never sleeps, never speaks, but keeps time with the stars. The planner and the executor are 2 different creatures sharing a skull, passing notes while you dream. If you want the deepest secret of your biology, subscribe now, because we're just getting started. So tonight, when you set that alarm, just know you're giving a command to a clock inside you that's so sophisticated it can beat your phone to the punch, a clock built from ancient starlight and biological rhythms. I want to know in the comments, what's the earliest before your alarm you've ever woken up, and what do you think your body was trying to tell you? The most boring question in the world just became the most profound. See you in the next one.